fit enough, strong enough. Nothing wrong with him. Looks good.
Yeah, he's got a happy knack of winning big races, hasn't he, Callan Murray, and Horse of Fortune, winner of the Ladies' Purse, and also the Premier Plate, the race that Jenny was talking about there when Pakistan Star somewhat blotted his copybook, I think it's fair to say. That's horse number 1, Horse of Fortune, for the South African combination of Tony Millard and the aforementioned Callan Murray. $19 if you fancy him. The 2 is Romantic Touch. He's had quite a busy season, but he's done his connections proud.
He has. He probably was a little bit flattered last time when he was sort of able to walk them in front, and he was able to finish in second position. But he's a nice enough horse. He's very solid. He does always carry that bit of weight around the midsection. But I love his attitude. He walks out nicely. He's strong all over, so he still parades nicely.
Yeah, he's been across to Macau and won the trophy over there, so he's had a fantastic season, Romantic Touch. I thought he was a bit flat when he first returned, but a good effort between Horse of Fortune last time out. And again, the 2 of them taking full advantage of Pakistan Star's antics on those occasions. There's a $12 chance here this afternoon, and Douglas White has been on board for those last 2 efforts. Sorry, the last time out was Callan Murray, the start before, but runner-up on him last time out. So that's Horse of Fortune, Romantic Touch. So we have the favourites to have a look at $2.70. We've seen the favourite, haven't we? Booming Delight. Beat the Clock we haven't seen yet, so he might be the next one that we see. Only a 3-year-old Beat the Clock. 8 starts so far this campaign. He's won a half of them. He's only been out of the top 4 on 1 occasion so far at Beat the Clock. I'll go again. He hasn't been outside of the top 4. Beat the Clock. 4 wins and 4 minor placings to his name, Jenny.
Awesome record, and he probably should have won 3 starts ago when he finished second as well. He was pretty unlucky there. So he's a very talented youngster, and he's a real athlete to look at. He's bandaged on his bumpers. He doesn't tend to carry much excess condition. He's not light. He's just really fit, and he's nice and keen and alert. I think he parades really well.
Yeah, he's a lovely horse. I think he's going to take quite a lot of beating today. I don't think the mile will be a huge problem. And that's number 4, Beat the Clock by Hinchinbrook, and of a mare by Lion Hunter. Getting a nice long look at him. It's a pretty tight market as well. $2.70 about Booming Delight, $2.90 about this fella Beat the Clock, and then $4 about Time Warp. So punters with differing opinions as who's going to carry off this particular prize. And just to mention what I said before about the draw as well with this fella, 14, 14, 12, 11, 2, 8, 12 and 7 are the gates he's drawn in his career so far in Hong Kong. So he hasn't been helped by the gates, and yet he's still got this really good record already. This is number 5, Supreme Prophet, who won the Centenary Vase earlier on, and he's the horse that's gone from Class 5 to Group 3, Jenny.
He's been a fantastic ISG, this horse, and he always looks like he could do with a run or 2. I say it about him every time. He's such a barrelly type, but his coat remains in good order, and it doesn't matter because he runs well with that type of condition on him. So still walks out well. Really good-natured horse. Looks good for him.
All right, Matthew Poon gets the leg up here on the Supreme Prophet. It was a good ride when he scored earlier on in the campaign. And he's one of the 5 stepping up in class here, Supreme Prophet. Just the second time he gets into Class 1 company. But as John said, he's been a bit of a success story. So I'm sure the connections are delighted that they're here at all after very humble beginnings. And there is Matthew Poon getting his instructions from Danny Shum, who's already looking ahead to next season. He's made entries for career in the 2 Group 1s at the start of September. More on that later on. But King Genki, Jenny, the next one we see. Another one here for Tony Cruz. He gets back up into Class 1 company. He's placed before in this grade, but not won.
He's sort of earned most of his points on the all-weather surface, so I'm not sure that it's totally ideal for him here, but he's been nicely presented from the Tony Cruz yard. He's a tall, strong-bodied horse, walks out well, and he's a good-natured horse as well. Just got himself slightly warm now, just sweating up a little bit, but he's not doing anything wrong, and he does walk out freely, so he parades well.
Yeah, he's technically 3 pounds out of the handicap, and he's struggled a little bit in Class 1 so far, King Genki, but he was a pretty useful galloper in Europe, so it wouldn't be the biggest surprise in racing if he did do himself justice here this afternoon. And the 8 is Anticipation, Jenny. He's a bit of a character.
He certainly is, and he's just giving you a little bit of an insight to that now. Head on the side, he's a real bossy type, and he always gives his marfer a bit of a hard time. He just wants to be in charge. So he can bite in his races as well, so there's a few antics there that are not great for racing, but he can bob up every now and again as well. He's started to sweat up, he's strong, he's solid, he walks out well, but his attitude's always questionable.
Keith Young in the saddle, putting up again, or just claiming one of his £2. He's only won once Anticipation in 31 starts, but he's still collected over $4 million in prize money. So the owners won't be too disappointed about that, as Booming Delight collects the best turned out, John.
Certainly does. As I said before, he's had a terrific racing record, and he's made a few dollars for his Marfu as well. It'll be interesting to see where Jenny has him lined up when she has to pick her top 4. And before she does that, we can go to Paul for a check on the market.
Horse of Fortune currently at 19, Romantic Touch at 12, Booming Delight there at 2.8, Beat the Clock in at 2.7. He's the new favourite, so at 2.7. Supreme Profit at 21. Time Warp's at $4. 45 King Genki, 21 Anticipation. So 3 horses singled out here. Beat the Clock, the favourite from Booming Delight, and Time Warp.
Booming Delight then, Jenny, the best turned out. I don't think there's too many negatives, were there, really, with the 8, but you've got to narrow it down.
Do have to narrow it down, and on form I'd probably go with Beat the Clock, because I've always had a lot of time for him as a horse, but the on top for me he's got to be the 3. I thought he has been voted the best turned out, and I agree with that. I think he looks an absolute treat. He's nice and healthy, strong in his coat. He looks really well there, you can see, and beautifully behaved as well. So the 3 on top of number 4, who's a very athletic type, Beat the Clock, and he's been terrific so far. How far he can go, we'll have to wait and see, but he's done everything pretty much right to date and does look particularly well too. So he's a Quinella horse for me. The 6 Time Warp paraded very well. He's a lovely, imposing type. He only got a little agitated. He wasn't over the top. Still on his toes a little bit as he's about to go out. And then the 1 horse, Horse of Fortune, the last start winner, he maintains his look. There's nothing wrong with him. And I think he will acquit himself quite nicely. Should be able to pick up a prize money check. So 3, 4, 6 and 1.
3, 4, 6 and 1 then for Jenny, confirmed on screen there now. So the 8 of them about to make their way out. Anticipation is still waiting for Keith Young to get aboard, but as we wait for that, we can hand up to Brett for his thoughts on this 8th race. Brett, there are 8 pretty useful thoroughbreds going around here.
That there are, John, no doubt about that. Yes, most of these have got some decent prize money already in their back pocket. I get the feeling potentially tactics may play their part here. There's 3 that obviously stand out in the betting, and they are Booming Delight, Beat the Clock and Time Warp, and I've got those 3 fighting it out. 3 very different horses in the way that they race, and all having different attributes. Time Warp's more of a high-speed, one-pace grinder. Beat the Clock's an up-and-comer who's got a bit of a turn of acceleration, but he can also keep grinding away, and Booming Delight probably has the best turn of acceleration, I would think, when you look at the sectionals, and he's had an outstanding season. But they're all very talented horses, and you would think that it should be a good battle between the 3. I ended up going with Beat the Clock on top from Time Warp and a Booming Delight, but could certainly easily be the other way around. I've thrown in Supreme Profit because he is a very capable horse on his day. He's had a good season. He's already won 3. He's got a little claim here for Matthew Poon, and he's drawn okay. And we know he can be a horse that can make an early move from time to time. When he gets rolling and in full flight, he can be very difficult to get past. So 4, 6, 3 with 5 in for 4th.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, pretty. The 3 sort of picked themselves, the 3, 4, 6. And I've gone on that order. I've got Booming Delight on top. Not sure about the track now, but it might play into the hands of the other 2. But Booming Delight on top to beat the Clock and Time Warp, but nothing between the 3. It's going to be a terrific race. And then for 4th, I put Horse of Fortune. It was a good win last time, and I think he's been racing pretty well this season. So 3, 4, 6 and 1.
Yeah, the top 3 in the market, yeah, may well sort of stand out, but I think this Time Warp should be able to control this race. These 2 wins at Happy Valley. Alvinong's giving him lovely rides out in front, gets into a rhythm and just draws the sting out of everything, just increasing the pace. He'll do the same here as well. Goes on any sort of ground he has done in the past in Europe. And he's going to take a lot of pegging back. There'll be no competition, I don't think, for the lead. King Genki's gone on in the past, but I can't see them getting into a speed battle here. Time Warp will lead. They won't catch him. Time Warp to win here. Beat the Clock, a lot of respect for him. But a 3-year-old, there'll be more to come from him next year. He's certainly going places. Booming Delight, well, he's already been there. He's a group winner already. But I think just giving the weight away, £11 to Time Warp, it's going to be difficult under these sort of conditions. And Horse of Fortune, a lot of weight on his back, but he's a class act on his day, John. But Time Warp for me, all the way.
Yeah, the same first four as both Paul and Andrew here, but ever so slightly different order. I'm going to go with Beat the Clock on top. I've been very impressed with this horse all season, and I think he should be able to get a nice run in this too. And I think the step up to a mile will be absolutely fine for him. And I think he's going places next season, and I think he's got a very good chance of being able to win here. Booming Delight, you can't really pick too many holes in his form whatsoever, and Time Warp seems to be really coming to the boil nicely now here in Hong Kong. There's not a huge amount between them. In fact, actually, if you go back to 2 runs ago, Time Warp's probably got a little bit of the better at the weights here over Beat the Clock, but I just think Beat the Clock is a horse who's maybe got a few more ratings points in hand. And I've got the one in for fourth there, Horse of Fortune. He's had a very good season, win, lose or draw today. 2 big pots won already. I can see him getting there or thereabouts here this afternoon too. 4, 3, 6 and 1.
I've gone with the 3 on top. I thought Booming Delight paraded beautifully. He's a lovely, relaxed type of horse. He's very progressive. He did arrive on a rating of 74, and he has got some 1600-metre form, so we know he's capable, and he certainly does look the part. So he's on top for me from number 4, Beat the Clock. He's also been terrific since he's been here, up into Class 1 here, up in distance as well to the 1600. I don't think it'll worry him. I think he will be hard to beat, and he does look good. The 6, Time Warp, a little bit on his toes, but other than that, really nice horse, very scopy, strong type, looked in good order. And then the 1, Horse of Fortune, the last start winner. He's a horse that is capable of bombing up. He's won 6 races, and he maintains his looks really quite well once again. So 3, 4, 6 and 1 for me.
All right, arriving down at the start, there is Time Warp for 390. Booming Light drifted out a little bit, Paul, but he's just trimmed up again.
Yeah, back into 2.9. Beat the Clocks with the supporters at 2.6. Time Warp's been steady at 3.9. As we speak, 2.5 now, Beat the Clock, and $3 about Booming Delight, and 4 about Time Warp. So that's the 3 main protagonists. 13 Romantic Touch, 18 about Horse of Fortune. Then we go 24 Supreme Prophet, 23 Anticipation, 47 the outsider of the field is King Genki.
All right, arriving down at the start, 1600 metres. I mentioned very briefly before, Danny Shum's made a couple of entries for Korea. Of course, Tony Millard went across at the start of this season with success there. Super jockey. Circuit Land in the Cup, the Korea Cup, 1800 metres on the sand, and Lucky Year in the sprint, the race that they won with Super jockey.
When is that?
September the 10th.
Okay. Okay, well, that's interesting. That might become a regular thing with some of the trainers here.
The lead-ups for the locals will be in mid to late November. So the Sha Tin Mile Trophy, Beat the Clock favourite, set ready, they're racing. They all stepped well. Beat the Clock's got initial speed, and he's got the front at the moment. Time Warp now charging through, near is inside, and King Genki deeper out's pushing on. Romantic Touch is up there, but he'll drop in for a little bit of cover as Time Warp barges through on the rail to hold the front. Anticipation's getting back into the second part of the field on the inside of Horse of Fortune. Booming Delight has dropped to second last on the outside of Supreme Prophet. There's half a dozen lengths from top to bottom, and Time Warp establishes the lead as they stride past the 1,000 metres. Leads by a length to King Genki. Romantic Touch is third, and Beat the Clock's got the 1 out, 1 back position fourth. On the outside of Anticipation, 3 parts Horse of Fortune. 2 further back then to Booming Delight, who's on the outside of Supreme Prophet. They're charging down the side, 700 metres out. And Time Warp for Alvanung, looking for another all-the-way victory. Has it 3/4 to King Genki second. Romantic Touch, Beat the Clock, has had the gun run. He just sits and waits, and now he edges out 3 deep, approaching the Ben Marrera. Followed then by Horse of Fortune, Anticipation. Booming Delight travelling well, 6 off them. Then Supreme Prophet, they're in the stretch. Time Warp, he clicks up the pace. He's a length and a half. Beat the Clock charging into second. King Genki, Romantic Touch, Booming Delight with a wet sail. Then Horse of Fortune. Time Warp's in full flight, 200 metres out. 2 clear, Beat the Clock. Booming Delight, they're going to struggle to get Time Warp. Kept going strongly. Booming Delight into second, then Beat the Clock. But it's a hat-trick of wins for Time Warp. A very smart 4-year-old, and Time Warp wins from Booming Delight. I think Beat the Clock held on to third, but he got very weary. Romantic Touch, King Genki late, then Supreme Prophet, Horse of Fortune, and a distant last to Anticipation. Time Warp, oh, he can run, this boy, no doubt about that. And well done to Alvanung. It's been an absolute fill-up for the young man. He hasn't had all that many winners this season. 5 in total now, and 3 of them have been recently on this horse, Time Warp, who was a very good horse in the Northern Hemisphere. He won 5 races on the trot before heading to Hong Kong. He took a few starts to acclimatise seeing the best of him now, and he could be a serious contender, all being equal, next season for Hong Kong. 6-3-4. 6-3-4-2-4. Favourite, set, ready, they're racing. They all stepped well. Beat the Clock's got initial speed, and he's got the front at the moment. Time Warp now charging through, near is inside, and King Genki deeper out's pushing on. Romantic Touch is up there, but he'll drop in for a little bit of cover as Time Warp barges through on the rail to hold the front. Anticipation's getting back into the second part of the field on the inside of Horse of Fortune. Booming Delight has dropped to second last on the outside of Supreme Prophet. There's half a dozen lengths from top to bottom, and Time Warp establishes the lead as they stride past the 1,000 metres. Leads by a length to King Genki. Romantic Touch is third, and Beat the Clock's got the one out, one back position fourth. On the outside of Anticipation, 3 parts Horse of Fortune. 2 further back then to Booming Delight, who's on the outside of Supreme Prophet. They're charging down the side, 700 metres out. And Time Warp for Alvin Ung, looking for another all-the-way victory. Has it 3/4 to King Genki second. Romantic Touch, Beat the Clock, has had the gun run. He just sits and waits, and now he edges out 3 deep, approaching the Ben Morera. Followed then by Horse of Fortune, Anticipation. Booming Delight travelling well, 6 off them. Then Supreme Prophet, they're in the stretch. Time Warp, he clicks up the pace. He's a length and a half. Beat the Clock charging into second. King Genki, Romantic Touch, Booming Delight with a wet sail. Then Horse of Fortune. Time Warp's in full flight, 200 metres out. 2 clear, Beat the Clock. Booming Delight, they're going to struggle to get Time Warp. Kept going strongly. Booming Delight into second, then Beat the Clock. But it's a hat-trick of wins for Time Warp. A very smart 4-year-old, and Time Warp wins.
Smart 4-year-old indeed, a smart ride from Alvin Ung out in front. This is a horse going places. The hat-trick landed here, John. He's done it in some style from the front.
Certainly has a smart best bet from your good self as well. 6-3-4-2, $37 the win there for Time Up. I wonder if somewhere in the early morning there over in the UK, Sir Mark Prescott's watching this at Newmarket, but he's running up the kind of sequence he ran up there in the UK. $14.50 a place, $14 a place for the second horse, $10.50 about the third. The queue there, 3 and 6 paid $76. The trio, 3, 4 and 6, $32. And the tierce in the right order, $231. Hump 1, 35.39 seconds. So quite on the slow side as far as the time goes, but Alvin Ung got it right out in front.
Well, Tony Cruz has been really loyal to Alvin, hasn't he? He's had a number of rides for him, about 75 rides, and he's had 4 winners for him, 3 of them on this horse. So he'll want to stay on him, and Tony does often show his loyalty to the local jockeys as well. I'm sure Alvin will be very keen to stay on this horse's back. He's a really nice individual. Yeah,
it's nice to see, isn't it? Because he obviously gets on with the horse very well. And again, it's a perfect ride out in front there, Paul. Just let him find his feet. There's a bit of pressure for Beat the Clock, but then just kept upping the ante all the way, and it's just been a lovely ride and dictated, and they couldn't get him.
No, they couldn't, and he just kept kicking on, and he's brought that Happy Valley form here to Sha Tin, no problems. As you said, Andrew, earlier on, he's a real versatile horse on all sorts of ground as well. He seems to go well on fast ground, and he's done well on the ground we had here today, and the other 2 just couldn't get near him. So really good, exciting win for Time Warp. We're looking forward to seeing him next season.
A slightly ticklish issue, though, from the Alvin Ung scenario is he's in the group company next year where he can't claim.
Well, and that's the thing, is it's not just the claim, but it's, whether he'll be right if he gets up, Group 3, Group 2, Group 1. For this, the Sha Tin Mile Trophy. Any thoughts, Paul, on the beaten brigade there? Booming Delights. I say it was solid effort, but too much ground to make up.
Yeah, it looked like that way, and I just wonder if he's better on top of the ground as well. Like with a little bit of cut in the ground, it was very hard for him in those final sectionals to make up the ground on Time Warp, and he was very well rated in front. Romantic Touch, I thought, ran not too bad as well. I mean, it wasn't. He's a horse that's won on a wet track over at Macau before, so it was a good run from him as well. But the best horse in the race won it, there's no question, Time Warp, and he's looking forward to seeing him next season, as I said. And Booming Delight, like, he had his excuses, so next time they meet, be interesting together, and if it's on a different type of surface.
Very nice trophy for the mantelpiece there, the Sha Tin Mile Trophy, the last big race of the season here for 2016-17.
It's 19 inches in height by all accounts, as my form book tells me. Trophy was made in London in 1828, so there's obviously a lot of history behind that.
Yeah.
And Alvin is going to spend the summer dreaming about Time Warp and where he goes next year. Tony Cruz trained winner. And of course, we'll have the Tony Cruz Awards later on today when we have the presentation to the winning local rider, the most wins for the season.
Absolutely, Derek Young looks a shoe-in for that now, but he's had a terrific season. Here we can take a look at the patrol footage.
From the start, then time warp. We knew he was going to lead, but Albin's just let him find his feet and go forward. Beat the Clock was probably quickest away. It just sits on his shoulder. King Genki comes out from wide in the white jacket. Booming Delight drops back in. Sam Clipperton looking for a spot there. They've gone 24.65 when standard is 24.75. So fraction inside of standard, then 23.88. So just finds a nice rhythm here, Jenny. And King Genki just gets up on his outsides and... well, as far as time warp's concerned, he doesn't see another horse.
Well, exactly, and I mean, he's entitled to probably get a little bit keen because of that situation, but that wasn't the case. Alvin's got him just travelling really nicely there, and that's one of the big assets for this horse because he's going to be up there. He's going to be out of trouble in most of his races, and they've got to try and catch him. If he's well rated, this is what he's capable of.
Absolutely. So bowling along nicely in front. King Genki in second. Romantic Touch sticks on for fourth place. There's Beat the Clock. Anticipation back on the inside. Horse of Fortune travels okay at this stage. Booming Delight swinging along as well. Our second favourite, and Supreme Prophet just coming under a little bit of pressure as they turn in. But Time Warp still in front and still doing it very comfortably. 23.70. The third split when standard is 23.4. But given the conditions, it's a pretty decent time as they swing in hard against the rail. He just starts to increase the pace here as Booming Delight lets down the outside. Beat the Clock mounts his challenge. King Genki cries enough. A Romantic Touch sticks on. Nothing else is really making up any ground outside of Booming Delight. But Time Warp, Alvin Ung pretty much hands and heels. A couple of reminders, but otherwise hands and heels to the line. A very impressive performance here to score by 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 in 135.39. Only just outside of standard. In these sort of conditions, that's a good effort.
Certainly is. Well done to Alvin. A really good ride. 3 and 6 on the QPs. 24.54 and 6 paid $19. 3 and 4 paid $21. Composite win, A2. The overnight mid prices there, $27. And the first 4 dividend, 2, 3, 4 and 6, that paid $57. 6, 3, 4 and 2, the quartet there paid $925. And the double for races 7 and 8, 10 into 6 paid $284, 10 into 3 paid $33.50. And the DT races 7 and 8, 8, 9 and 10 into 3, 4 and 6 paid $5,628. Sectional times 24.65, just about on standard, then 23.88, 23.7, 23.16, a race time of 1 minute 39.39 seconds.